Welcome to the studio. Today, another exciting video, another exciting day. I'm mostly taking care of working on Watch Me Burn. That's a song I started months ago. A big label is interested, a big DJ, and I just need to do really quick, like an edit of it, a club edit, just make it longer, intro, outro. That's fine, I'll take care of it, but that's also super boring to share. So I won't share my working process today. Instead, I thought, why not teach you how I learned to make music, which is interesting for beginners, intermediate people. How can you advance, get to the next level, learn the basics, all in a fast, not so complicated and fun way. Breathe it in, let it go, feel the high, feel it all. So first of all, I always learn everything myself. I don't know why, but my brain is just wired this way. The second someone else tries to show me something and teach me something, I'm less interested. I have to do it myself. I have to figure it myself. It takes sometimes longer, but once you conquer it, it's stuck, because you got all the way from like figuring it out to actually learning it. You all did it yourself. There are no shortcuts, but that's, at least for me, the way to go. The first thing back in the days I learned was actually DJing. I started, I think, around like 13, 14. I was just very interested in music. I never learned to play an instrument as a kid because I grew up poor. We didn't have the money to pay someone to teach me anything. So no instrument, also no money for instruments. I remember I always wanted to play the piano. And then my parents got me like paper that you could fold it out. And there was a piano printed on it. Didn't make any sound, of course. You could just like practice where to put the fingers, but without the sound, it's not fun. So yeah, DJing. Back then, very skillful, because vinyl, very hard. You have always to correct it, to speed it up, to keep them beat matched, to keep them in sync. And that's like the first thing I learned back then, is like rhythm and keeping things 4 to the floor on top of each other synced. It also teaches you a lot about music, because you have to listen to a lot of music. It teaches you a lot about the structure, because you have to mix the intro over the outro of another song. You have to learn to count to 4 for like 1 bar. You have to count these again to 8 or 16 or 32, so you know how long the intro outro is to overlap them. So for that kind of basic skill, it's kind of fine. Then the next step was actually getting my first DAW, the first music making program, back then Reason, which was kind of fine. Later on switched to Logic, and there I started actually first with doing small edits, because I was DJing and some songs didn't have intros and outros, so I started chopping up the songs and building out of these chops new intros and outros. So I learned the basics of using a DAW, later on started doing the first remixes of songs and the first full edits of songs, or combining a vocal of a song to an instrumental of another song. This is really a great introduction, because this way you don't have to build everything from scratch. You take other people's parts, work with them, and it makes it more enjoyable, because you end up with something that sounds kind of decent instead of just making trash for the first 3-4 years. So if you're interested, by the way, I'm doing right now a competition, a sample competition with one of my most successful songs called All About. All of the info you need is linked down below in the description. You can download the parts, make your own song with it, submit it, and win really big. An official release on my label, and there are more prizes involved. Again, if you want to find out more about it, link down below in the description. Then after doing all of these remixes and edits, basically for DJing, I started more and more getting involved in doing stuff from scratch. And I'd say back then, the #1 thing that helped me was watching other people produce. Basically, what you get here on this channel, back then just wasn't available. YouTube wasn't even a thing. So you had to go to a store, buy a magazine, back then Future Music Mag, where you could see other people, like the top of the top people of the electronic dance music scene, making songs, which was like just amazing. There's so much you can learn by watching someone else make something. You can think about what they're doing right and copy it. You can think about what they're doing wrong, or just learning what you like and don't like, techniques, ideas, things you could do. It's just amazing. So right now with YouTube, There's so much. There is a ton of stuff. I think it's even so much right now that the problem isn't finding. The bigger problem is actually knowing, out of all of the stuff you find, what is actually good and who's actually telling the truth, or who says something and doesn't even know what they're talking about. There are a lot of videos that I sometimes watch, and like after 1 or 2 minutes, I'm like, no, that's just so absolutely wrong. And I just like skip on to the next video. So it's more about selecting. I personally, if I want to know something, I watch like 4 or 5 YouTube videos about it. And then I have like a general feel for it, sit here in front of my computer and do it myself and just figure out a way for myself that works based on the ideas of these other people. The next point is just doing it a lot. You need to train. Music production is a skill as every other skill on this planet. The more time you put towards it, the better you get. People always ask me how to get a fat sound, how to mix properly, how this, that, blah, 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 as if there would be like one solution to it. But there is not, because every song is different, every kick is different, every bass is different, every key of a song is different. Every time you make a new song, it's a new challenge. There is never the point where you figure it out 100% and then just do it and it's perfect. Also for me, every single time, getting kick and bass right is a fight, and this will never stop. Eventually, you'll have the tools and weapons to fight that battle, faster, more efficient, but it will be always a fight, and you just have to go through it, and it just takes time, a ton of time. A ton of time. Within the first year, you're just learning the DAW, the music making program. Then another year to just learn and develop and making the first songs. So I think to get to a point where your songs are release ready, if you're really, really dedicated, I'd say 2.5 to 3 years is possible. Like I myself had my first release like 4 years into music production, but on and off, wasn't so dedicated at the very, very beginning. That's crucial. There is no skipping, there is no shortcut, there is nothing I could teach you or someone else on YouTube that will take away this very long learning process. So it's absolute key that you love what you're doing and don't get frustrated. I think the mindset is even more, or is a bigger role actually, than like the music production skill itself. You need the right mindset to go through all of this bullshit for years and years and years, being frustrated a million times with songs that do not translate, do not sound good, aren't enjoyable, to eventually get closer and closer to doing something that actually works. Another big point, and something I also still have to learn, is collaborating. I'm the type of person, I like to be alone, I like to do my stuff and have my own pacing. Second, someone else is introduced into the equation, I get a little annoyed and frustrated because I'm very serious, very dedicated about what I do, and I sometimes work together with people that aren't. So it takes a little time, but try to find people on the same level, skill-wise, dedication-wise, and just work with them together. Like working with someone else for an hour, you will learn so much, and they will also learn stuff. And you might teach them something that you already forgot again and be reminded of it, and exchange ideas, concepts. It's brilliant. Just go out there, find someone within like your friends or online, or communicate on Facebook and groups, whatever it is. Just collaborate with other people, be in touch with other people. This will also eventually help you once you get to the point where you need to take care of business stuff, releasing your music, promoting it. The more people you know, the more potential there is for people helping you to just grow as an artist. And then last, there are the things you should never ever do. Never ever. If someone offers you something that is kind of weird or is too friendly, be careful. There are a lot of people ripping off, especially young producers, young musicians that have big dreams. They will promise you bullshit just so you do whatever they want. Most labels, most managers, they don't care about you. They just care about money. The earlier you realize that, the safer you will be. Also, just like if there is a contract, everyone says it, but no one does it, get a lawyer. It might cost you $50, $100. Trust me, it's worth it. Or ask a friend that is a lawyer, or ask at least someone within the music business industry if they think that's actually a fair deal. Because there's a lot of ripping off going on. It will hurt you, it will annoy you, steal a lot of music making time from you. Trust me, I've been there multiple times. Another one is like time management. If you make music, most people that listen to the music are not music producers. So they only care about if they like the song or don't like it. That's your audience. You're not making music for other musicians. You make music for the average person out there. So don't dedicate a whole lot of time like parallel compressing stuff and multi-band compression on the master and blah, blah. No one cares. It's a good song, it's a good song. If the mixing is a little off, no one cares. Like most of the mixing mistakes, you actually only hear if you compare it A and B to other songs. No one does that. I don't know a normal person listening to music that A and B compares the mixing of two songs. That never, ever happens. Just make it decent. Just make it good enough that people are not thrown off by a vocal that is like 10 dBs too loud. Just get it to a decent point, and that's already enough. Release it. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Just get it out there and evolve. People love to like discover early on artists that aren't there yet and like recognize how they evolve. A lot of people always ask me if they should delete their old songs. I always say no. It's so interesting. It's so interesting to see how someone developed. It's not like you shouldn't be ashamed of like sucking in the past. Just be ashamed of sucking still right now and in the future potentially. But just put a lot of time towards it, learn a bunch of stuff, train a lot, and be focused, and you'll get there.